The last couple of videos went really well when you told us about the early years arriving here to the United States, and I guess that was the beginning of the American dream when you talked about, how you felt coming here, seeing your family, to this great country, and leaving a place that you called home, but at the same time, was having a lot of difficult challenges to live in. So part of the American dream, I think, for a lot of people is getting here to the United States and having a support system, right?
Right.
Like, for you, you were a child, and I know that your family was here and that your dad and your mom were working very hard to get ahead. But I'm more curious, and I think maybe a lot of our fans might be curious about who helped you, I guess, when your father became ill, and eventually, I guess, you had to make the decision as to whether you wanted to continue playing the drums, which is a little story that we'll skip for now. But you wanted to be a drummer. You went to New York, and you thought maybe that was your American dream.
Right.
And the interesting part is that you kind of stumbled on the American dream a little bit, right? Like your dad got sick and basically said, "Hey, I need your help here." I know that you were involved from before.
Right.
But what was that driving force? What was your support group? Did you have people that really kind of gave you that push, to finally,
Well, I think what it's funny because I think what gave me the push, was the day that I got the call that that my father was sick. You were born at that time, and you and your mother were down here in Miami, and I was up in New York City, following my American dream.
Your first American dream to
my
be
first one.
a jazz musician,
a
drummer.
Right. And I think that's when I got, when I got that call, that, my father was sick. He had ALS. And, it's, needless to say, it's a terrible disease. And it's something that, the whole family, I think, suffered a lot with it. Seeing a gentleman that, all his life had worked hard to, be a success here in the United States, and all of a sudden come down with something like that. But anyway, I don't want to get into that. But anyway, when I got that call, I started thinking about all the years that the family as a whole, my mother, my father, my wife, your mother, Elena, had put in myself, had put into, getting where we were at that time, which wasn't big, but at least we were starting to see ends meet. And I said to myself, you know what, I gotta, if not, if not for me, for them, and for all those people that, all these times that, we had this little factory and try to make a success out of it, worked so hard to achieve where we are now, I gotta go back and just, give my full to that and kind of forget about the music there and, see what happens. But I think the challenge was that at that time, the business was not like it is today. We were a small company. I mean, maybe we had like 10 cigar makers. So I didn't, there wasn't really a future, I would say, during that period for this industry. So in that sense, I think...
What year was that? To just get
that was like he got sick in 1976. He passed away in 1980, so around that period. So I guess I took a leap of faith and said, let's go at it and see what happens. And, thank God things turned out, pretty good.
And so when I'm talking about that support system, I remember a little bit when I was a child and you were taking me to school. And I know that my grandfather was sick because, I saw him. And I remember a lot of conversations about the business. Even as a child, I was 5 and 6, and I could still pick up on a lot of what was going on. And I remember one time when I was jumping on the bed and I hit my head on the bedboard, and basically he called you up and said, "Hey, your daughter, just hit her head and she's crying and she's bleeding. You need to get back here. You need to get home." And I can only imagine, how difficult it must be because struggling, artist, with a family to support and your dad, kind of like saying
Well,
to you, hey,
it was
I
yeah,
need
but
you here.
that was that was kind of things that parents do all the time. They like it wasn't only my dad, my mother also.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
funny because your mother never called me to say she was always supportive. But I guess the thing with the parents, they always want to have their kids near,
Yeah.
and they would call me,
Yeah, no, I know.
you Lissette got this, or you whatever.
Yeah.
But that was them,
But even still, you tried to persevere with that initial,
Yeah,
ambition you
I
had to be
tried.
a musician. You
Yeah,
did
but
try.
at the end of the day, when I heard that news, I said, there's no sense in keep doing this if it's not really what I need to do now.
And I remember you were driving me to school, and you said I was 7, and we were in that blue van,
Yeah,
and you said to me, "The old man passed away,"
yeah,
and I said, "What old man?" And you said, "Your grandfather, my father, passed away." And I remember thinking to myself, "What is he gonna do? What are you gonna do?" Right? Because you used to take me around to buy tobacco. I remember like going and checking out the little tobacco places near the office. And I remember you in the hallway, right off the office space, like going through all the tobaccos. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how you learned to blend in our next video. But I guess that you must have been faced with the decision of what am I going to do? I don't have money. I mean, you had some siblings that also were left part of the business. And I mean, I remember mom and you like arguing because she would go to the grocery store and buy like filet once, every 3 months. And I would hear those conversations like, hey, there's no money, there's not enough money. So that must have been like a big decision to say, who's going to help me? And I think that's where like the real support system came in for you, right? Like who pulled it together for you to help you?
Well, I
take that
think
step?
I think it was a combination of a lot of things. My the way that this thing turned out. Eventually, I think that the support of the people that my father bought tobacco from, like Andres Lope, Cucho Oliva, De La Portilla. I mean, there were a few people that basically said, look, we're here to support you. You don't have to pay. My father at the time owed some money. I'm not going to say it was large amounts, okay, because it wasn't. But we're gonna support you, and we want you to succeed. We want you to not feel that that you have to like pay us right away. Whatever you need in tobacco, we're here to give it to you, and you pay when you want. And so that was a great support, from them. And of course, from my family, everybody supported the fact that I was going to do this on my own. My mother, your mother, my aunts. I mean, everybody just kind of chipped in and said, we're here. Go for it.
I
Go
remember
for it.
talking about everybody would give you a little something,
Exactly,
right? So
exactly.
that you could buy the whole
the
whole company, like
Right.
$2,000 and this and that. And I
Right.
remember as a kid hearing those numbers, I was like, wow, $2,000.
Well, that time it was a lot of.
I know.
It was a lot.
I know, and these weren't people that these were very hardworking people. It's not like they had
They didn't have this
money sitting around.
Exactly.
Like,
exactly.
And I
That's
remember
the
you
thing.
talking about paying them back with interest, like that this was very important to you.
Yeah.
Like all these conversations,
Yeah,
growing up, I remember hearing. So.
Yeah. So I mean, it turned out to be, it turned out to be workout, and there were a lot of years there that, we really, couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. But, as we all know, finally in 1992, when Cigar Aficionado came out, that was the changing point in the industry. So from then on, it just became.
You were able to pay everybody back.
Oh yeah. We paid everybody back. Everybody got, it's funny because, a lot of these people that put their faith in me and kind of said, like, Cucho, the Oliva family, Andres, de la Portilla, all these people, they saw that, I wasn't going to let them down. And it's funny because none of them ever came back to me and said, and they didn't bring that up. Let's just put it that way. These were gentlemen, the old-time gentlemen that, had a word, and they were about the business. They were about, helping others. So I think that was very, very instrumental in me being able to keep doing what we were doing,
Yeah, and I remember I knew we had made it past the conversations about going to the grocery store. When one time we went to Bal Harbor, and we were driving back or something, and I said, "Oh, Dad, I really would have liked to get this or something." And you said, "You could have." And I was like, we were literally paying the toll, right? I was like, "I could have?" And you're like, "Yeah, you could have." I'm like, "Wait a minute, how much are we selling?" And you told me, and I was shocked. So, and I think I was actually working there too, but it's like you don't see the accounting all the time,
Right,
so it was kind of like one of those moments where it's kind of like, wow, we don't have to argue about,
money.
what are we going to eat or money or, at least for me, I would have never changed my childhood. I've learned the value of hard work, every penny. And I think that the children of those people, immigrants and people who grew up here as well, obviously, who have struggled, and the dream, I think, doesn't need to be $1 million. I think the dream is about, something that comes from inside of you, what you want, whether it's like owning the local bookshop or, owning a coffee shop or whatever it is. It's just that passion.
Right.
And, we'd love to hear from, our audience about, what are their dreams and, what are some of the struggles that you all have been through. So. Thank you for tuning in with us, and there's one more video left after this
see you
one.
soon, yeah, I
See you
guess.
soon.